So this is Timur Dar with The Beat, chatting with the talent behind VOX MACHINA. So having seen the first 6 episodes, without a doubt, I know the fans are going to love it. But for me, what's critical for a great series with this expansive universe is that it's accessible to new viewers. Best example for me in recent years is The Mandalorian. I just watched the films, but after I saw the first season, I was just hooked and led me to the expanded universe. For you, how important was it for you to both satisfy the hardcore fans, but also bring in new viewers who know nothing about Critical Role?
That was definitely a challenge and a concern that we had out of the gate when developing this, and that was part of the decision to develop 2 new episodes at the get-go that can help establish the character relationships when they were just starting out, to help kind of establish the world in a digestible way that didn't overload you with heavy lore or make you feel alienated if you didn't already know the source material. And so that was definitely a conscious series of decisions we made when we were developing the series from the very beginning. And it's a challenge, and hopefully we pulled it off. But it's, we wanted to make sure that it was both a balance of inviting people to explore Exandria and the ever-growing kind of horizons beyond, but also keeping the focus about just these people and their relations and how much they care about each other, how much they rub each other the wrong way at times, how much they played pranks on each other, and eventually rise up to become heroes amongst this ever-growing world. And hopefully we pulled it off.
Yeah, well said.
So what I've heard from others who've been working on animated projects during the pandemic, even though they kind of missed the in-person, face-to-face interactions, their productivity has actually increased. So I'm curious for you, what has been the experience of working on this animated series during the pandemic?
Oh, that's a great question. I think what I'm most impressed about is the just ability to keep going, and the drive and the innovation that has to come when you're thrust into an unfortunate situation, but you have to adapt. And I've always been fascinated and just love when a creative can adapt to their situation and their circumstance. And we realized pretty early on that we were going to keep going, so everything switched to table reads over Zoom and voiceover sessions alone in our closets in our individual houses. And it worked. Like we got it done.
So actually, I was just recently chatting with one of my friends, former Ben 10 writer, Charlotte Fullerton. I'm sure you remember her.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, so I was chatting with her. Her late husband Dwayne and she herself never got into tabletop games, but she said she always wanted to when she grew up in the '80s, but wasn't allowed to because it was considered a boys' game. So I think that perception has definitely changed since she was growing up. So I'm curious if you had any obstacles similar to that, or when you got into gaming?
Yeah, this was the first game that I had ever played. Was first tabletop game I've ever played. With this group, and I had been exposed to it before because my brother would play it, but it was all of his guy friends. And so I would just try to peek in and see what was going on. But the landscape has changed so much. And I think it's now that more and more people have played RPGs and, having all different types of people at the table, you're going to have a more interesting and fun game. And I think for me, a lot of I don't want to say obstacle, but I think one of the reasons why I wasn't able to play the game before was, a lot of the satanic panic of, I grew up in a fairly conservative home. So it was it was sort of this unknown game of well, that's like witchcraft and magic, and you can't play that. And then when I finally played it, I was like, wait, this is what the big uproar is about? Like, this is so nerdy. But it's now, having been playing this game for, I don't know how long we've been playing it, 8 to almost a decade now, I guess, of
decade,
of playing an RPG. I think everybody should do it. I think it's incredible for, it's been a help for me in a lot of ways with my social anxiety, or playing with friends and developing relationships and friendships that I've never had prior to this. I think this is an incredibly important game, and I think people are starting to realize that, and that's why it's becoming more and more popular, and people are trying it out.
Matthew, so one of the things, as I was looking up the history of Dungeons and Dragons, one of the things that popped out to me that I found interesting was, despite the popularity in the 80s, that Ashley was alluding to, there was actually a dip in profits because it was spreading itself to, the company TSR was spreading itself too thin with books and toys and their own cartoon series. I'm sure you remember that. I saw in reruns. So I'm sure right now, as Critical Role is continuously growing, is that something you are consciously keeping in mind so you don't spread yourself too thin as well?
That's very much something we're keeping in mind. Our goal with what we're doing, well, I say for goal, we still don't really fully understand how all this is happening. We're extremely grateful and blown away that we have the opportunity to do stuff like this. And so, one, we're continuously grateful. Two, we're extremely conscious that all of it could just go away tomorrow. And so that sort of mindset allows us to be appreciative of what we have and to be careful with every step we take and make sure that we do it smart. Make sure that we aren't just expanding and doing things for the sake of profit or expanding the brand. We want to make sure everything's done in a way that makes sense and both feels right to us, right to our values as people, and our friendships, and then we're all on the same board and we all check in with all of us when it comes to making these decisions. So it's very much something that we want to learn from those of the past and never ever want to, fall into the late stage capitalistic dangers that many companies tend to chase. So that's kind of where we're sitting with this.
Deep answer. I'm glad to hear that. So you're working with Titmouse animated studio. I've been a fan of theirs, since their early Adult Swim cartoons. They're just really amazing to see how far they've come. Now they're a major player. So I'm curious, how has it been like working with Chris and Shannon Pronelski and what Titmouse brings to the table?
Oh,
the best.
That's so cool.
Yeah, what an incredible group of people.
It's funny you mentioned the early days of Adult Swim. Like I was such a fan of Metalocalypse. I saw them live. I saw a fictional animated band live at the Wiltern Theater perform. So oh yeah, it was an incredible show. And I have a whole story for it some other time. But I've loved Titmouse for so long. When we reached out to them to see if they want to work on this, it was kind of like, would you guys please be maybe interested in helping us make this cartoon happen, maybe? And then meeting Chris, who's just totally chill and like, yeah, man, we'll figure something out. It'll be great.
He's so cool.
He's so cool. And the fact that they were on board to put the energy and the effort forward and sharing in the vision that this could be a legitimately amazing cartoon and throw their weight behind it says everything to me. And as a person that is a fan of animation and a fan of the work they've done, it's still surreal. And Chris and Shannon have been incredible through the entire process. So with the success of Vox Machina, I'm sure fans would love to see the second campaign, the Mighty Nine, adapted for animation. So I'm sure right now you're still focusing on the second season, which hasn't come out yet. I'm curious, has the second campaign been discussed or floated around? Oh man, we'd certainly love for that to happen.
We would love that. Yeah, we would love that. we'll fingers crossed.
Yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, I guess, if we get to it. So if you want to see Mighty Knight animated, spread the word about Vox Machina animated. If it does really well, hopefully. We'll see. Who knows?
So I was in an earlier interview with the other cast members. I kind of compared to Critical Role to Monty Python in that they did.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It's very much for what they did for comedy. I feel you guys have done for role playing and tabletop games. So I'm curious, how do you think Critical Role has played a part in changing the perception of the tabletop role playing gaming community and how it's helped the industry?
It's wild to look back on it when you're the subject, I guess. And I'm one of those weird people who's a little odd about talking about myself personally, but it's been exciting as a person that grew up loving role-playing games so much and not seeing it get the respect or attention or being embraced the way I always wanted it to, and then doing our stream as hopefully a means of doing so and have it succeed. And it's not just us, but so many other people have then taken the torch after us and streamed their games. And to me, that's what's really most exciting, is we give permission to people to jump into a space they might not have been comfortable for and create these amazing tales between their friends. And the fact that we could have in any way, shape, or form been responsible for part of that is huge. It's an honor. It's wild to think about, and ultimately we just want to do good things and leave a good mark on all this. So that's our goal, and it is weird to think about when you bring it up like that. It's very weird to think about.
Agreed.
Amazing pleasure chatting with you.
Great talking to you too.
Bye.
Thanks so much, buddy.
Bye.
Take care.
Tamar, I love your Wonder Bread shirt.
Oh my God, it's so great.
I love
That's
it.
the polka dot man from Suicide Squad, but that's actually not.
Hell yeah.
That makes more
I
sense,
love it.
but I would totally wear that. And I'm going to try to find that online.